What's up, guys? Welcome to quiz number 22. If you're new here, this is a series on YouTube where you get to solve 3 positions and compare your answers to everyone else on YouTube. This week's quiz had a theme, and it was King and Pawn Endgames. I'm sure if you already took the quiz, you noticed that already, but some of these were not as simple as they maybe first appeared. So we're going to take a look at these 3 positions, talk about them, and see what everybody else thought the best move was. If you didn't get a chance to participate in that already, as always, you can pause right before we talk about it, figure out your move, and then continue watching. But having said that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first things first, here's the rating distribution. We had just under 600 players participating, 214 players from 0 to 1,000, 276 players from 1,000 to 1,600, and then 108 players above 1,600. Let's jump into the first position. All right, so here's the first position. If you'd like to pause and think through what move you would play as white, it is white to play. And of course, white is going forward this way, black is going down this way. So go ahead and pause. And when you're ready, we'll talk about the solution. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, from 0 to 1,000, the top move was B3. The second move was king to A3, and the third move was king to B5. From 1,000 to 1,600, the top move was king A3. The second move was B3, and then the third move was king to B5. And then 1,600 and above, the top move was king to A3, second move B3, and also third move king to B5. All right, so when you first look at this position, you might have been tempted, and those of you who said king b5, I'm sure were, to say, you know what, I don't even care about this pawn. I'm just going to go forward and take this guy and push this for a win, right? Like king b5, black's going to take me. I'm going to take here. The king is too slow. I push my pawn, get a queen, and I win. It seems pretty easy, right? The problem, and this was kind of one of the big tricks with this position, is that black doesn't have to take your pawn. They can play king to b3. And the point is, you can't take the pawn now because you lose this pawn, and black is still going to come back and get this pawn in just a few moves. It's too far from your king for your king to support it. And you have no other moves to play, right? You have to move something. If you push the pawn, black just trades it and then takes your pawn, and whatever you do, they're going to get both of your pawns. So that was kind of the trick behind king to b5. This is something you want to remember. Very rarely are king and pawn endgames as simple as they seem at first glance. There's oftentimes a trick or some sneaky move that you have to be careful of. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The other move that a lot of people said was b3, which at first glance makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay, I'll just take my time. I'll get ready to play this a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and push my pawn up where it's nicely defended. The problem is black's just going to sit back here, move the king around, and if you ever try to move your king forward, they're going to take it. And you have the same problem of, well, now what do you do? If you take this, you lose both pawns, right? And how else can you make progress? Because here's the thing. If you ever go over, well, now they're going to go to c3. And again, you can't push this or they take here. And so you really have no way to make progress once you play the move b3, okay? So both b3 and king b5 lead to a draw. The only winning move, which a lot of you did find, was king to a3. And the point behind this is there's a couple things. Number one, we are not committing the pawn to b3, right? We're also not going for this right away. We might go for it later. We're just kind of defending, and we're putting the ball back in black's court to say, okay, you need to move your king away somewhere, which is going to benefit me, right? And the major threat is actually to play b4. So for example, if black moves here or here or here or here, any of these squares, we simply play b4 and the pawn is gone, right? So like next move, we play c5, the king can't catch it. Even if they trade, it doesn't help. The pawn is just gone, right? The king just can't catch it. So that's the point, right? Behind king a3, we're going to be playing b4. So because of that, the king has to go to d3, so that now if we try to play b4, they simply take our c pawn, right? But now what we can do is play the move king to b3. We come over, we defend our pawn, and we put the ball back in black's court again. Now they have to make a decision. Do they come up this way, or do they come back to d2, right? If they come up, well, now we're going to come up. And the difference between this position is that now when black goes back here, guess what? We can play king to b5, which is what we wanted to play earlier, but look at where black's king is. It's no longer threatening to go to b3. Remember, that was the move, right? King to b3, keeping the tension on this pawn, but also stopping our pawn, right? That was kind of black's only move. They don't have that now. They have to go here to keep the tension, but now we can simply play b4, and we're going to be playing c5, getting the passed pawn, using our king to support it, and getting the queen, okay? So that's one example. And the other move, let's see. Okay, so that's if they played king to d4. If they played king back here to d2, we simply play king to a4. And if the king comes over, again, we have b4, right? And so when the king comes up, again, we have king b5. So it's the same idea. We're either, in some cases, we're pushing b4 and then getting the pawn to go that way. In other cases, we're playing king to b5, but only when black's king doesn't have the option to go to b3. So it's stuck over here, and that's brings us to the winning position. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Very tricky position. At first glance, when I looked at it, I was like, huh, this seems, going back to the beginning here, I thought, huh, this seems like a very easy win for white. And then I realized this sneaky idea of king to b3. So congratulations if you saw that. And for everybody who said king a3, congratulations. Let's go on to position number 2. All right, here's position number 2. It's white to play. The pawns are going forward. Black's pawns are coming down this way. Your move, what do you play? Go ahead and pause if you haven't already taken the quiz. All right, if you had a chance to do that, let's take a look at the move. So from 0 to 1,000, top move was king to e8. Second move was d5, and third move was king to g8. 1,000 to 1,600, we actually had the exact same thing. Top move, king e8, then d5, and then king g8. And then 1,600 and above, again, top move was king e8, then d5, and then king to g8. So everybody was saying the same thing. We just had some different percentages in some of these rating ranges. So this one was actually meant to be the easiest of all 3 positions. And the point is, we've got a protected pass pawn, which is a very good thing. The only issue is that our king is stuck at the moment. And it looks like wherever we go, black's king is just going to kind of mirror us, right? Like we move here, they move here, we move back, they move back, not ever letting us off of the back. So some of you who said d5, maybe we're thinking, well, I mean, I'm going to be stuck forever. I may as well try to use this pawn as a decoy to get my king off the back rank. The problem with that is that black's going to just go take your pawn, right? Yes, you do get your king off the back rank, but now we just have a 2 against 2, and there's no way that you're going to be able to win this. It's actually just a draw at this position. So because of that, we do have to make a run with the king. Now, if you go this way, you are correct in that you can never get your king off the back, right? Like, where are you going to go? You can't go anywhere. Now, you might say, well, if I go over here and black follows me, I can push my pawn as a decoy, which is true. But again, black is still able to catch it, right? He's in the box. Remember, you can make a box to see if the king can catch it. He's in the box, and so he's going to catch your pawn. And again, it's a draw. So that doesn't really help you. So the only way to win, and I think for those of you who said king to e8, you saw this, was to slide the king over, slide the king over, slide the king over. Remember, every time we're doing this, we're threatening to escape. So black has to keep, mirroring us, right? Slide the king over. And once we get to this position, now is when we play d5. And notice what's different. The pawns and our king actually prevent black's king from going and getting our pawn, which forces black's king over here, which is not what they want to do. And that in turn allows us, we have 2 options. We can move our king off, or we can just simply push the pawn. And now black is not able to catch it because our king is stopping where they would like to go, right? They have to go here, we get the queen, and we win. Actually, you have to be careful. If you get a queen, that's a stalemate. So you have to get something else or move your king or whatever. So you could do this and then get the queen, or even getting a rook would be fine. You could still win the game like this. Checkmate. But regardless, that's the solution, king to e8 and that little trick of d5. So congratulations if you saw that. Like I said, this was meant to be a little bit of an easier one, but still had a tricky idea. All right, here's the third position. It's white to play. Again, white's going forward, black is going this way. What move do you play as white? Go ahead and pause if you'd like. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, let's go ahead and take a look at what everybody said. So top move from 0 to 1,000 was king to b5. Second move was king to b4. Third move was king to a5. 1,000 to 1,600, top move king b5. Second move king b4. Third move king to a5. And then 1,600 and above, top move was king to b4, then king to b5, and then king to a5. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in this position. Okay, so when we first look at this position, I think it's pretty obvious to everybody that all of these pawns over here are locked up, right? Like nobody can really make progress. We don't want to push this. It just gives black, a pass pawn for free. Black doesn't want to push this. It gives us a pass pawn for free. So these guys are stuck. The action in the position really has to do with what's going on in this kind of this area of the board. Can we get our king in, or can black kind of stop us from getting our king in, right? That's what it comes down to. Now, the first trick with this position is that king to a5 is immediately drawing. Okay, we give away our advantage, we get a draw. The point is that black plays king to c6. We have no way to infiltrate. Black has completely shut us down. We have to go back somewhere, and black simply plays b6, trades these pawns off, and we get a draw. Nobody's king can really get through. We can just go back and forth. That's it. All right. So if you said king to a5, that's why that's not the correct idea, because we allow king to c6. So with that in mind, king to b5 makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's like, all right, well, let's go to b5. I'm still threatening to come in, but now I don't allow black to go to c6, right? The problem with king to b5 is that black can now play king to c7, and how are we going to come in? We can't. We can go to king to a5, but then that's the same problem that I just talked about. We allow king to c6, which means king to b5 really doesn't help us. So if you said king to b5, that's kind of the wrong move. Now, you can still win the position by going back and essentially getting like the same position, right? If we do this, you can get back to the original position is what I'm trying to say. But king b5 is the wrong move, okay? And the point is, like I said, we can't get in. We can't get in, and we don't want to go to a5 or then king c6. So the correct move in the position is king to b4. And the point is, first of all, if black tries to come up, now we go to a5, but it's different. We've switched whose move it was, right? Remember before when we went there and black came? Now it was our move when we had to back off. In this case, it's black's move, and they have to back off. If they try to play b6 now, we simply take it because our king is supporting. So b6 is not an option. Remember, on b5, we have en passant, right? So that forces black's king to go back. And now we come over to b5. What's the difference? Well, now it's black's turn, and they have to give up control of this b6 square. Let's say something like this, and our king comes in. Okay, now once we get this, it's over, okay? Because basically what we're going to do at this point is trade off the pawn, and look at our king. It's boxing out black's king. We can simply just come over and take as many pawns as we want and win the game, all right? So just to recap, because I know that can be a little bit confusing, let me actually just go back to the original position here, sorry. All right, so here's the original position. If we go for b5 immediately, black is the one who plays king to c7, shutting us down, and we don't have any good options. We have to just go back. We didn't make any progress. When we play king to b4 first, allowing black to come up, then king to a5, forcing them back. Now, when we play king to b5, notice we just played the move. Okay, now some of you are probably thinking, well, hey, hold on, what if black plays king to d7 with the idea that they're going to play king to c7? Well, you would be right. That would make sense. The problem is when they play king d7, we can just immediately go for the b6 square. We don't have to go here. We just immediately go here, right? So to keep us from doing that, they have to go to c7, which allows us to get this position, except it's black to move. Okay, so this is a concept in chess known as triangulation, and basically, it's called triangulation because we're kind of making a triangle. I guess it would be more like this, a triangle with our king, right? And by doing that, we can kind of waste a move and put our opponent into trouble. Okay, it's a very fancy way to get zugzwang, and it just sometimes, because of the way the position is set up, one king has the option to do the triangle and waste a move, and the other king doesn't. And that's what we're seeing here, right? So like, for example, here, I just did the little triangle deal to come over here. Black would like to be able to do a triangle deal themselves, right? But they can't because of the fact that, like I mentioned, we'll infiltrate on b6. So because black has to kind of guard some extra squares, they don't have the option to triangulate like we do, which allows us to get the zugzwang, and then black's in trouble. They have to give up control of the b6. I explained that as best I could, guys. If that didn't make sense, watch it a few times, maybe play around with it yourself to kind of see what I mean. But triangulation, it's an advanced king and pawn endgame technique, but it's very common in situations like this where there's most of the pawns are blocked off, but there's some opening in the position where if you can kind of waste a move, you might be able to infiltrate. that's when you want to keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so congratulations to everybody who said king to b4. That's the only correct move in this position. And that being said, king b5, you could still repeat and get back to the same position, you know, in a roundabout way and still figure out a way to win, but it's not really the correct move. The correct move was king to b4. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed those positions and learned something about king and pawn endgames. If you'd like to participate in next week's quiz, as always, the link is in the description. It'll take you right to the Google form. Fill out your answers. We had, like I said, close to 600 players participate in this last one, so appreciate all the participation. It makes for a fun video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.